All eyes on Dublin this weekend. 5:40 kickoff local time, 7:40 kickoff Central African time. Cat, sat. Yeah, you're watching a special episode here on the Global Gainlines, a crossover episode between the Interpro Show and bit of an animal. It's Ireland versus Africa. It's Sam Prendergast versus Sasha Feinberg and Ngomzulu. It's Adam versus Jean. Let's get stuck in. Gentlemen, good to see the both of you. In the light green corner, we've got young Adam, and in the dark green corner, we've got Centurion's own Jean. All right, guys, I want a clean fight. Obey my instructions at all times. No biting, no scratching, no holding, no hitting below the belt, no mentioning of Dricus du Plessis or Conor McGregor, or as I call him, Conor McNuggets. All right, guys. Adam, we'll go with you first because it's your home game. You've seen the team now. We had the Interpro Show and the Bit of an Animal come out, a podcast come out on Tuesdays, but now we have a bit more insight. We've got both match 23s. How have your opinions on this game evolved?
First of all, I'd like to say it's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me, lads. But yeah, the teams are out. It's looking interesting. I feel like we didn't go for a bench we went for a traditional bench split wise with a 5 and 3. I thought we would have went for a 6-2 split like we almost did last week. No, we didn't do last week even. We haven't really tried it, but it was the last time we did with the Six Nations. It's about as normal of an Ireland team that you're gonna get. I think I saw in the week that Hugh on one of the group, I think it was the United Rugby group chat, mentioned how I'd say I think it's 13 of these players would have played against Scotland in 2022. So it's a not changed as much the Ireland squad as you would like I would like personally, building towards the next World Cup. I've said this on the Interpro show. I've made my feelings known about it. But to be fair, when you're looking at that back three of Lowe, O'Brien, and Mac Hansen, they all sort of suit each other. And after Mac Hansen's performance on the week last week against Australia, scoring that hat trick within 20 minutes, you just want him to be motoring again. You want him to have those type of those plays where he comes up the middle and he picks those right lines. I think him at fullback is perfect for that, for his speed and his pace and his awareness of what the space is in front of him. But yeah, I feel like it's going to be a massive, massive game. We don't have a second row on the bench, so I think Ryan Baird's going to be playing the full 80. Sorry, was also covering the second row position, which is interesting when I look at South Africa's bench and I see like RG Snyman, who can easily come off the bench and be deployed there. Being an Ulster fan, I know how terrifying it is. RG Snyman coming off the bench, seeing him for Leinster and Munster play against us. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. You don't have necessarily a great track record in Dublin. I was saying before the podcast, I was there the last time you beat us. I think it was in 2012, and I was about I was 10 years old, and I'm 23 now. So I feel like I feel like there's a lot of a back catalogue there for you to face tomorrow.
Yeah, so
Jean?
so I actually want to get Adam's opinion on something because looking at that back three, and I agree what he's saying in terms of having Mac Hansen on fullback, but for me, in terms of if you look at the type of kicking game the Springboks typically play, and especially with Willemse on our side being the number 15, wouldn't it have been better to maybe pull low in on fullback? And just because he's got that massive boot, I mean, we know he's going to do some incredible acrobatic bullshit that no one will ever be able to explain again. But that massive left boot of him, he's got an absolute cannon. So, I don't know if it's a South African mindset or something, but typically we like our fullback to have sort of a big boot. So for me, it would have sort of made more sense to pull low into 15 over Hansen.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting. I don't think Lowe's ever played fullback in the Northern Hemisphere. I don't think he has been for Leinster. But I know what you mean in terms of his big left boot. I feel like he's really utilized in that left wing role. Whereas Hansen at the minute, it's still humming and hawing about whether or not he's going to be fit because he's had a lot of strapping on his hand. But I would have put as an Ulster fan Jacob Stockdale there because he's also got the left boot that James Lowe has.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he's got the power and the pace for it as well. But I feel like Mac Hansen, when he played for the Brumbies, he played at 10. He played at 10 a few times as well. So he's got that experience in the kicking game as well.
yeah,
It's just that necessarily we didn't see him use it against Australia, but he has been playing fullback for Connacht in the past couple of seasons as well. So he does have a boot when he wants to deploy it. I do understand that James Lowe boot is one of the best in the world, but I feel like Lowe doesn't has lost sort of a yard of pace compared to when you look at your back
yeah,
three and how quick it is in general. You've got Williams, Colby, and Moody. I feel like even if James Lowe defensively were to stand back a little bit more to sort of couple up that pairing of that like the pendulum almost, because Tommy O'Brien's fast enough and he's good enough to play fullback as well. So I feel like they
yeah.
all sort of pair well together. But I know what you mean. I can understand that Lowe at fullback would have worked really well a couple of years ago, I feel.
Yeah, I
John,
think, like you
what
pointed out, it might be the lack of experience there, which is why they're going with Hansen over Low. But it's interesting because like I wouldn't have made that connection.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've been watching James Lowe for years. I haven't seen him play fullback, but I mean, I know I have seen Mac Hansen play a lot for Connacht at fullback. So, and then the whole 10 thing is a big factor. I've read a lot about that this week as well. Jean, in terms of like the whole team, I'd like to get your thoughts, but also the fact that Moody is playing wing, where we have seen him play wing before, but he's really sort of flourished at outside center. What do you think the tactical nuance there is in using him as opposed to Hooker or Kurtley Arendse?
So I think the tactical at a tactical level, if we look at the kicking game, um, Hookah's pretty tall. So in if my mind is correct, it's a bit late on a Friday night, and this brandy that is in this beautiful Guinness glass, elevating it to a new level, might
Bravo.
make me wrong, but
Sorry.
if I'm correct, Moody should be paired up opposite of Low in terms of field pairing. So Moody and Lowe should be facing each other, and I think it's the height. So if we're going contestable, the ability to get the height there, because Moody is while he's got pace, is not really a bulky guy. He's got pace, but in terms of aerial contesting, that height, just the fact that he's tall as well, adds to it. I think Hookah was omitted based on the fact that he's got some, I think he's got some overplaying injury, like a niggle.
Mm.
If I remember the post Italy press match, press conference, correct? So yeah, I think and Kirtley with the HIA, I don't think we ever got clarity on that, so he might be sidelined. So we don't know if this is forced hand or tactical. But from a tactical perspective, I can see the value of having Moody go up against Low in an aerial contest for kicking. Um, and then obviously we've got Kriel Lende Willemse to compete for the tap back as well
Mm.
once it gets on the ground.
All right. Broadly in the squad, it's weird because like as the season's gone forward, it's clear for us that Reinach, the combo of Reinach and Sacha Feinberg and Gomezulu at scrum off and fly off respectively is our first choice, or at least the inform combo that we have right now. Things that can evolve between now and the World Cup. Anything can happen. Injuries, loss of form, someone else breaking through and that type of thing. With comparison to um, the combo idea that Ireland are going through, because the question, the discussion is between Crowley and Pendergrass, and they're not that much different in age and stuff. But I like the fact that Ireland have gone club combos, that they haven't mixed up the Munster Leinster thing. I think it's smart to go when Pendergrass plays, he plays with Jamison Gibson Park, and when Crowley plays, he plays alongside his Munster teammate. Wyatt as well, very good. Craig Casey, are you are you happy with that, Adam?
Well, my opinions on the Interpro show is that if you like combos, Mohammed, you would love this Andy Farrell team because all but three are Leinster. We've got four provinces in Ireland, and Leinster necessarily haven't played that well. But Andy Farrell is all about cohesion ball. Cohesion ball is what's got him here. It's that, everyone knows what they're doing, everyone knows what they're playing for. I would have really liked to see Prendergast and Casey.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, I would have because I feel like I feel like both of their games suit each other, and it was the Japan game where we saw it, and it worked really well. It's just the way that I liked seeing Jack Crawley and also Gibson Park. I feel like for Ireland is and for Andy Farrell is that he doesn't like any type of difference where he doesn't know it, so it's right. With our center partnership, for example, Gary Ringers and Bundy Aki, they've played countless tests with each other. To the point where by the time that's the next World Cup, Bundy Aki is going to be 37 and
Mm,
Ringers will be 34. He's had the same team since 2022. He knows his team. This is a World Cup. Before a World Cup, his team is set in stone. When I look at that team, I want more like spicing up essentially. I want this I know I'm talking far ahead because this game's right now, but I want
mm,
this Six Nations to be an experimental year. I want 2026 in general to be an experimental year. Looking at this team right now, we're not experimenting much. Even when I look at the bench, we've got a what one two we've got three Leinster, three Munster, and two Connacht. You're missing out a team completely there, and I know I'm from Ulster, but you're missing out a team completely there, and we do have talent. There's lots of talent. I think the Ireland Day game sort of proved how much talent we have going through our system. It's just that I feel like, as an Irish fan, I just want something a bit different. I want it to be uncomfortable. Like if you're playing with your squad mates, I look at South Africa and I see the range of players that play in the URC. I also see players that play in Japan. There's a range there. There's a range of different teams. You look at England, for example, they've got loads of different teams in that squad, and they
mm.
all play well in the rugby. But when you look at this one, it's almost like for an Ireland fan, it's a little bit of a flaw. And you wouldn't say it's a flaw when we like I would still say it's a flaw even if we beat South Africa, but we'll get onto that later. But I find it to be not like I feel it's counterproductive because this Leinster team, if they were fully strength, if a full strength Leinster team, let's say the Northampton game last year, they got thrashed by Northampton. That there's a way to beat this team, and I
Mm.
presume that Rassie Erasmus already knows how to beat this team. It's just it's so predictable. It's almost too predictable. That team is too predictable.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
say
interesting. And credit to you, Griffin, our fellow podcaster, and producer as well. Um, when he brought up the fact comparing this week's team to the team from 2022, I was also kind of shocked at how little progression there's been made. Even if these players are very similar to those players from that Scottish game in 2022. But in the interim, there's been very little blooding of other players. I mean, Big Steve McCloskey or Choo Choo Stu, as you like to call him, he's only weirdly now breaking in, and he had a couple of really good games in this autumn series. Autumn for you guys, let's say end of year tour for us because it's spring here in South Africa and very warm. Um,
I
so it's
wish
like we're just a secret tourism podcast, and then um, I'm I've been having serious concerns as well about like when you look at other teams and you see progression. In New Zealand, you see progression. In Australia, you see progression for different reasons. In New Zealand, it's because like talent's coming through. In Australia, it's because people are just leaving and that type of thing, for league and for overseas and stuff like that. But I think South Africa have been doing a lot of stuff good, and we're not perfect. We have lots of stuff to work on as well. We've lost games this year. We've lost Australia. We've lost New Zealand. But the lack of turnover in terms of just in case people get hurt, you go from like a 50 cap guy to like a 30 cap guy, that type of thing. The question I had, and I forgot to ask this on the group chat, is the lucid options in Ireland. We got Andrew Porter. He's from Leinster, and then we've got Paddy McCarthy, Joe McCarthy's younger brother. He's from Leinster as well. Who's the other? If neither of these guys were fit, who's the other lucid option in Ireland.
You've got Michael Milne, who's in
From
Munster, who should be in the Leinster, who is former Leinster, but he got told if he wants to play for Ireland, he will move. He will have to move.
and then he moved, and then they still didn't pick him. And I've been reading so many articles saying like, how Irish media articles saying how's Michael Milne supposed to feel? He did what you told him to, and you still didn't pick him.
It's completely true. We've got so many front row options in the other provinces. In the loose head prop, I'm thinking like, yeah, you've got Malcolm Milne, who should have been in this squad. He played in the Ireland XV game against Spain, and he had a pretty good game as well. I feel like as an Irish rugby fan, it's so confusing and partly concerning. For me, seeing that the squad was completely unchanged since 2022, the fact that we're closer to this World Cup coming up in Australia than we are to the last World Cup, I see progression in even South Africa with your new 10. He's incredible. I know that there's loads of other players around him that are aging fast as well, but you will always have that conveyor belt of talent, and you've got Rassie Erasmus who's willing to play the younger players in big games like this. Whereas I would have presumed that last week against Australia, well, we said about Stuart McCloskey, Choo Choo Stew, he's 33. He's only got a handful of caps. He's got 23-ish caps. I think the last game against New Zealand, it was his first game against New Zealand. Considering that he's had an international career of about 10 years, I know that we've had a complete golden age of centres since O'Driscoll and Darcy retired. Because those were the guys. Those were the guys back then that they were in my lifetime. It was like O'Driscoll was injured. Let's put in Keith Earls. Darcy is still playing, but I feel like we lived through such a golden age of centres, and we've got such a golden age of young talent coming through that we need to blood them in. The thing is like feeding them to the Tigers. I feel like we should have. I feel like we should have against New Zealand, and I feel like we should have against Australia, and I feel like this South Africa game would have been the perfect game to be like, right, okay, you've done New Zealand, you've done Australia, this is when we're going to push on. And if we lose, we lose. You're going to have a good game. You're going to have test level experience. And with South Africa having two World Cups, I would have really wanted that. I would have really wanted. I'm thinking like Jacob Stockdale a couple of years ago when he scored the two tries against Houston the Aviva. He was young. This was just before the 2018 Grand Slam. We need that. But as an Ireland fan, I feel like the only experimentation that we do is when the likes of Johnny Sexton retires and then we're left with Prendergast and Crawley, or a Leinster, like some type of Leinster, like hopeful, bearing in mind that Leinster have a complete epidrome of lots of really expensive grammar schools where they have a lot of money and they've got a lot of passion for rugby. They're producing all the players at the minute for Ireland. And to me, there's a lot more talent in the provinces, and I feel like it's a bit disheartening. It always is. I'll support Ireland until until everything comes home, but for me, I'm like, do I feel represented in a team where you're like, you see it and it's all Leinster, you see it, it's like there's some Munster and there's some Connacht. I'm like, good for the other provinces, but we're supposed to be the four proud provinces. There is some talent coming through Ulster. There's talent coming through every province, but I feel like we need to move on from the ones that won't make this World Cup. They're Bundyakis. James Lowe, I don't think will make the World Cup. I think James Lowe, like Swan Song, would have been that Lions tour come past. You had Bundyaki there. Robbie Henshaw played a really good game last week, but they're all the center options. Aki, Henshaw, Ringrose, and McCloskey. They're all over 30. You
Yeah.
have to think about age.
John, on succession on our side, Bowen Finter got a little bit of criticism for scrummaging last week, but I think the circumstances were against him. I think he's a good player. He was almost Scottish, but lucky for him, and I'm sure after watching the Scots fall apart against Argentina last week Sunday, he's probably super glad he got the call from Rassie. Are you excited to see him scrum, and what other aspects are you looking at this team sheet?
Yeah, so I think Buonfinter was done in. I've seen a couple of reviews of the match now um, from various sources. I'm not going to name names and point fingers, But at least two Scrum professionals that I know saying that the Italian loosehead played it very clever against Buan, putting him in a position where he doesn't really have an option but to go sideways.
Mm.
And that's the dark arts, right? No one's honest at scrum time. We can pretend and pray and be toting my team's virtues till the cows come home, but a scrum is a mess. And if you win, you win. And if you lose, it's illegal. That's the way it goes. Sorry. So I think in that sense, he's also sort of learning that at test level, it gets really gnarly. I'm not saying that URC and Champions Cup and stuff doesn't have its bag of tricks or whatever, but I think at test level, you got to be ready for everything. I remember the one overhead view, like the Italian prop was literally staying square, took the hit, and as soon as they settled, he angled to such an extent that Buan had nowhere to go but in. And you could see even his shoulders, like you could just see the inside shoulder. He got the overhead, his shoulder on top of Buan, and he was just drilling down on it. So Buan, it's if you do any sort of contact sport or martial art, they always say where the head and neck goes is where the body goes. And it's similar to that. If you're in that position and I'm pushing your shoulder down, then he's going this way and he's being pushed this way. So he's going to rotate. So I think for him, it's also a learning curve to say, listen, at test level, you got to be ready for exactly this kind of nonsense. It's going to come. And it's both a compliment and a bit of a dig. But I think the Irish are very good at that, that sort of manipulation. Um, I am sort of optimistic in the fact that we're scrumming against Andrew Porter, because while he's a very strong individual, he is not a naturally good scrummager. Like he's got incredible strength. I've seen the gym videos, and he could probably rearrange my spine using one hand. Um, but he's not the best scrummager there is, right? He's a great prop, but he's not a great scrummager. So I think there we sort of have an opportunity to get in. But yeah, I mean, in terms of what Adam was saying before, not feeling represented by a team, I think that's something we as South Africans can identify with, that feeling. In terms of pre-Rassie,
Mm.
having to deal with things like quota players, and there's the black guy is only in the team because we need X amount of of representation,
Mm.
and we got guys in that the first time you look at a team sheet, you're like, I've never heard of these guys. You're watching them play, they play fantastic, and you're like, why weren't these guys in the team? You know, and so I think we we we're well aware of the golden era of Springbok rugby that we're in. But I do understand where Adam's coming from, saying, they're a country of four provinces, but it feels like one province is getting 90% of the meat and the other three have to fight over what's left. Oh, you'll be lucky if you get a spot on the bench or whatever.
Mm.
So I do empathize with that feeling of saying, but well, listen, Ireland's a big country. I'm
Mm.
sure there's talent in every nook and corner, and you can make the argument to say, oh, but continuity, but keeping. That's why you have alignment camps. That's why you have training camps, guys.
Mm.
Rassie is not spending Saru's budget on alignment camps so they can watch reruns of them winning the previous Rugby World Cup final. It's about saying, listen, this is the milestones for this year. This is the game plan. Do you remember we had a meeting about this 2 months ago? We're having the next meeting. Are you caught up? Are you with us? If you're not with us, there's the door. Go do your homework, come back. Right? And that's the thing. And that drop off, exactly what Adam said, you're losing a key player, and not trying to curse any particular position, but let's say Gibson Park is unfit. That means Casey moves to starter, right? So who's your next guy? How many caps does he have? And
Uh,
that's
Oh, Blade.
that's exactly the position we were in 2023, because we were like, no, it's fine. Andre Pollard will be good. And then the news breaks. Andre Pollard is in fact not good.
Mm.
Okay, who's 10? Guess what? Who's debuting this weekend? Mani Lebok. He'll
Mm,
be 10.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, he struggles with kicking sometimes, but he's electric on attack,
Mm,
right? And South Africa collectively shat ourselves for like the whole of 2023.
mm,
All the cardiologists I know got like the fanciest beamers and whatnot, thanks to the invoked stress of winning by 1 point the whole time. Um, but I understand. And I
yeah.
think Rassie also said that he wants a squad big enough where if we have to go to the third choice option, he's not on 5 caps. He's at
Mm,
least on 10 or 15. He's played against Italy. He's played against Ireland. He's at least played one match, either off the bench or starting, against the top 5 teams in the world. It's not the
mm.
first time he's going out against France. It's not the first time against Ireland or England or Australia or New Zealand. So
Yeah,
I,
and
I
Rassi's
do
willing
empathize with what Adam is
to
saying.
to risk. It's not that we're going out to lose. We're always going out to win, but he's willing to like play the percentages for the greater good, for the broader picture, as opposed to sometimes I feel like Andy Farrell's like, we got to win this game, so we're going to go with the Leinster team. But the thing is, one aspect of like, I'm sure these players don't need motivation. I mean, they've got a fantastic coaching staff, Rassie, Zondili Stick, etc., Dion Davids. It's not just Rassie. I always say this in football as well. It's not just the manager. It's like the backroom staff as well, and that can influence success. But one aspect that one could dig deep. If you're playing for the Sharks, especially if you're playing for the Sharks, if you're playing for the Bulls and you just lost the final to Leinster, and this is mostly a Leinster team, so the Bulls players are going back to where they had a really poor performance in a URC final, alongside their friends from Japan and some of the guys from the Sharks and the Lions and Western Province as well to like frame it as, look, these guys in the URC, when you guys are split up, they they take your lunch. So now it's time to give them some payback. And we'll look at the fact that South Africa are slight favorites for me, but the thing is that Ireland have won most of the games in the last 5 fixtures. And I'm glad Jean actually mentioned that other aspect of um, Adam's articulation is that it's regional, whereas our articulation is that before Rassie Erasmus, really, even in the Jake White time, because of South Africa is an extremely diverse country, but rugby is almost an exclusive game for people who can access private school mostly, and most of the people who can access private school are wealthier people. So rugby was not so much, even though we had success, we won a World Cup after we achieved democracy. We won a World Cup under Jake White, but between Jake White and Rassie, there was still a lot of unevenness and stuff like that, shall I say? Because we went from Jake White to Peter de Villiers. There were administrative issues as well. We went from Peter de Villiers to Heineke Meyer. He thought like, I'll just win with the Jake White team, but then those guys got injured, and I'll just phone Victor Matfield and see if he wants to unretire. It was not the greatest idea. And then we went to Alistair Coetzee. Unfortunately, he didn't do so well, and he thankfully got replaced by Rassie. I've been watching Rassie Erasmus's evolution. I'm too young to remember him playing, but I've been watching him, and he's always been the guy who's willing to take risks. He's always been the guy within a very conservative reality of South African rugby who will get onto the roof of the Toyota Cheetah Stadium in Bloemfontein and start shining lights. And the conservative Afrikaans oaks with their brandewyn and their biltong are like, this guy's an idiot. And he wasn't even that good a player. They'll say he was quite a good player. If you watch him actually play, well, I didn't watch him live, but if you watch sort of like the highlights and stuff like that, he was trying to innovate back then as well. So Rassie was a loose forward, but he was getting mixed in the back line. You'd find him like throwing the ball around and that type of thing. He was a very mobile player. So he's a guy who plays with his mind. So when Rassie came in and he understood that a diversity of team makes the team stronger because everybody's got different strengths. And I think maybe Farrell needs to also adopt a degree of that. Not integration for the sake of integration, but integration for the sake of the greater good. And not just doing it. Rassie doesn't just do it, but he also speaks it. He talks about it as well. So people can't intimate like exactly different things. One aspect I would like to say is Adam, is this the season of Ryan Beard? Because of all the players in this November series, he's coming out of it with his reputation way higher.
Yeah, Ryan Bird at the start, like when you saw like I'm like talking about the Interpro show when the squad got announced, I fully said I don't understand why Ryan Baird's in this team and why X, Y, Z player is not in. We've got the likes of Tom Ahern in Munster. We've got Cormac as a Chukwu. However, Ryan Baird stepped and he stepped up and he stepped up again. He's playing that sort of loose forward ball, like loose forward player that we needed him to play. And he stepped up higher and higher. And there's a lot of players that like I do say like I give a lot of slack to like the fact there's a full like Leinster team and stuff like that as well. But I must preface it in saying that I do support all these players. We do have very good players in Ireland. Ryan Baird is at the minute he's his stock is growing at an enormous rate. Paddy McCarthy as well, I must say, his stock is also going at an enormous rate. He's not a bad loose head. He's quite good. There's a lot of players where I was sort of like humming and hawing about, and Ryan Baird was one of them, but he's coming out of this tour from like not this tour, this I was so confused when you said tour, but then I was like, of course, you're on tour, we're at home, there you go. But he's coming out of this Quilter Nations Cup or whatever we're calling it, a cold
We
pipe.
don't. Oh, we don't do that yet. We don't mention the sponsor
Oh no.
until they pay us. So
We,
producer Lee edit.
we say on the Interpro Show a cold pint of Quilter, um, because it's not even a pint, but yeah,
In my mind, I have Quilter as a bunch of grannies knitting things, and
Yeah,
it's like taking Europe by storm. That's why they're sponsoring rugby.
yeah, we just
yeah, yeah.
love
My mom is quilting things this whole week for Palestine, and I'm like, what is this quilter thing?
we just love a blanket in Europe. Um, but,
But seriously, Adam, what is quilter? Now that we're just talking about it,
it is a insurance company, I think.
everything's an insurance company these days, or like a crypto scheme. Like, yeah.
Yeah, well, we say in the Interpro Show, cold pint of Quilter. So hopefully we don't get a cease and desist. But yeah, if I had a player to pick in this Autumn Nations Cup, it's not even a cup series. It's going to be a cup next year. It would be Ryan Baird or Paddy McCarthy. Those are the two players that have really stepped up and impressed me in terms of, yeah, you can do this 100%. Tommy O'Brien as well. He's a player that I knew that was class anyway. Watching Leinster play and seeing how he dictates the field for Leinster, he's about a year younger than Jacob Stockdale, which I find mad because I thought he would have been way younger than he was. He's about 27, but
Hmm.
then again, he's going to be about what 29 by the time this World Cup comes around. He's going to be hitting sort of that peak time for a winger. Yeah, there's a lot of players that I'm really impressed with, and Prendergast and Crawley both impressed me in separate ways. I'm the man that restores peace on the Interpro Show. At least I try and think that anyway.
Uh, John, let's have a look here at the most recent 5 games. So in 2017, we lost to Ireland, in Ireland. And then 2022, we lost to Ireland again. Big gap between these two fixtures. This was just, and then at the World Cup in 2023, we lost to Ireland in the group stage. I don't know what happened in that World Cup. You might have to remind me. And then further on,
Final was played that day. 2 seconds.
and then
Remember
we,
that in
we
Ireland, it stops after the pool stages.
yeah.
There's after the pool stages, there's one celebratory match, and then we move on.
Oh yeah. It's just a sort of a friendly. And then there was an incoming series the year afterwards in 2024, 6th of July 2024, and we defeated Ireland in the first game. Weirdly, it was only a 2-game incoming tour of
Yeah.
Ireland to South Africa. So we defeated them by 7 points. And then in the second game, certain Ginger from Leinster, who can't get into the Ireland team, um, kicked I believe, yeah, it was Frawley that kicked the drop goal that we lost, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you think this
Two,
is going to
two,
factor in?
not one,
Oh, he kicked
two.
2. Wow, good for him. Maybe that's why he's not in the team. Um, Ghost of Yanni de Beer came and got him. So despite the fact that Ireland won the first, the most recent game, and of the last 5 games, South Africa have only won 1. How do you think this is going to factor in? You think it'll have no bearing or some bearing?
I think in terms of what Rassie is going to bring to bear is the fact to say that first of all, this was the game, the 2017 match, right? Was the game that him and Jacques Nienaber attended whilst they were at Munster as coaches,
Hmm.
right? And post-match, hearing the South African fans in Ireland talk about how the fact that Springboks are now on their way to becoming a mid-level team, and they might have a good day or bad day, and sort of kick-started this whole journey, um, or their whole journey. Um, I think that there there's a weight here, or not a weight, but like a something that we need to prove, right? And I remember in the build up to 2023, to the 2023 World Cup in 2022, we played Australia away in Australia, um, and for for the first time in 10 years, we won in Sydney, I think. And I remember post match on Reddit, I was like, it wasn't a pretty win, but you guys understand it's the first time we've won in Sydney in 10 years. Mentally, what's happening is the team is shifting to we can do this away from home.
Mm.
So in the same way, I think the team needs to accept that we can beat Ireland. And I think it's one thing to know that, listen, South Africa and Ireland are both in the top three, and on any given day, any team can beat another team. That's sport, right? I think for the Springboks, what it is to say there's a barrier here. Exactly what Rassie said after we lost in that pool match. We had them, but we were walking towards the line out, shoulders slumped, out of breath, like if we lose it, it doesn't matter, right? And I think getting ourselves switched on for Ireland is something that we need to do, and we need to prove yet not to Ireland or to the world. Everyone in the world is telling us we're the greatest team. I think for us, it's going to be you guys need to prove to yourselves you can show up and you can do to Ireland what you did to France, what you did to New Zealand, what you did to all these teams, setting records, winning. And I was listening to someone speak earlier today, and they asked me, and they were like, "So, what is your score prediction?" And I said, "It's going to go one or two ways. If we lose to Ireland, it'll be 3 points or less that we lose by. But if we win, it'll be by more than 10. That's my personal prediction. If we lose, it's going to be the tightest of margins. But if we win, if we get that momentum going, it's going to be by more than 10. And I think that's where Rassie is going to push into the team to say 5 matches over almost, call it what, 8 years. You guys have won one. One. Post World Cup, you couldn't beat them at the World Cup. You couldn't beat them before the World Cup, right? And yes, 2022, we didn't have a fly off. Marnie Lubbock was finding his feet. We were without Pollard, conditions being what they are. We went into the 2023 game with everything we needed to win, and we did it. So then when it didn't matter, right, you won them for the sake of pride, just to lose the week after by 1 point. You guys need to switch on and drive the point home to yourselves to say, we cannot let these guys, just because they're as physical as we are, they're as big as we are, they're as strong as we are, then you find another level. That's what we do, right? If Ireland's going to come to the gutter, then we go deeper, and we keep going deeper. We need to keep going deeper till we find that level where they can't keep up with us.
Speaking of physicality, there is no big Joe McCarthy. Adam, do you think that's going to have a bearing on the game and or the tactics?
I think Joe McCarthy would have slotted in quite nicely into this team. But I do think our physical presence is there in our front three. I know that Jean mentioned about Andrew Porter not necessarily being great at scrumming. My co-host and my good friend Ben on the Interpro Show would always say, like, look at the elbows, look at the elbows. It's a really interesting thing when you look at Andrew Porter's elbows. They're normally quite high in the air. But our physicality will come in the likes of Bundyaki as well.
Mhm.
Every time that I sort of go like, oh, Bundyaki, he's you know he's getting on now. He's gonna have some type of performance that you're like, oh yeah, it's Bundyaki. What am I talking about? You know, we've got our physicality in Ryan Baird as well, who's found that, as we said before, that newfound form that's been incredible. Caelan Doris as well. Having him back is massive for this Ireland squad in his captain presence as well. I feel like he's really suited to the captain role. But yeah, I'd say we've got a pretty big in terms of size backline. You know, you've got Ringrose, he's not a small fella. James Lowe isn't small either. But yeah, we've got a lot of power in this squad. We've got a lot of power, not as like bomb squad-esque power coming off the bench as well. We've got Tom Farrell, who has been making strides at Munster as well, who's been really good in that centre position for them. And we've also got the likes of Cian Prendergast, Sam's brother, who had
Mhm.
a quite a good game against Australia when he came off the bench. We've got a firepower, but with firepower we also have as well just skill coming off the bench. You've got Craig Casey, not a small fella, but when you see him on the pitch, you would think he's about 10 foot tall. He's got that fight in him, he's got that fire in him. You've also got Jack Conan as well, and I feel like Jack Conan, in my opinion, when you look back in Ireland squads and you look back on any type of Leinster squad, well, not necessarily Leinster, he plays more for Leinster than he does for Ireland in that sense. But you think Jack Conan is one of the most underrated players. I know that he's played a lot for the Lions and know that, like, but when you think about Ireland alone, the fact that he's in and out of Ireland squads, not necessarily now, but I feel like he's getting his flowers right now. He's incredible when he comes off the bench. I feel like I'm really worried about the bomb squad, of course, but you know, it's how Andy Farrell uses his bench. There's a lot of talk about how Andy Farrell uses his bench and how he deployed it. He deployed it really well against Australia. Not so much against New Zealand, but I feel like there was a lot of forced substitutions and forced withdrawals from there as well. But yeah, I feel like we've got quite a lot of power, but when I look at that South Africa pack, it's huge, it's massive. But as we say, if history dictates and the likes of we all play each other in the URC now, I feel like that's massively benefited South Africa more, like as much as it did Ireland as well, having club teams regularly compete against each other. I feel like we'd all be used to each other in that sort of sense, physicality wise, and I feel like we'll know what's coming. But with this South Africa side, I feel like my worry is those last 30 minutes. Those last 30 minutes against France were phenomenal. I feel like you're looking at um like the levels of what the All Blacks got to in 2011 with that last 30 minutes. It was unstoppable. You've made that France team that looked really good a year or two ago look really humbled. But that's where we have to sort of look at our bench. We have to sort of really tactically think about when to use them. The likes of Ronan Kelleher coming off the bench is always quite nice as well. Not a like for like replacement off Dan Sheehan, but you know, he still has his pace, he still has his power, but we need to get little basics. Like we need to get basics working really well. Our lineout hasn't functioned this well this autumn. Our scrum's done all right, but it's our line out. If yous catch us out the line out and we have a crap line out like we've had all autumn, yous are really gonna catch us out. One thing I love about South Africa is that yous always do the set like any type of set piece well. And if we mess up at all as much as we have in the line out this week, yous are gonna cost us. And I feel like it's gonna be the real determiner of who's gonna win this game is in the set
It's
piece and the little margins like that.
it's funny that you mentioned the lineouts because I was busy on Thursday um, while they were speaking about the teams and everything. I came across a clip and it, this person said essentially the quintessential set piece for Ireland to launch their game from is line out. So for South Africa, you would tie it to a scrum, right? We love a good scrum and we're not shy of a good maul as well. But we would almost always prefer to either launch off of a scrum or launch sort of from a nice solid midfield ruck. Um, and this guy just sort of the person speaking was saying like, if you can deny Ireland a good clean line out, and you can block them at the first or the second ruck and
Yeah.
really just slow it down, you've got the potential to get them in a space where they're just moving from left to right and they're not necessarily gaining meters. And what's funny to me is we've been struggling with our line out for a long time, and now suddenly we're getting to a point where the line out's really functioning. And if we go back to that 2023 match, your line out was better than ours, right? Like we've been struggling for a while, and now we're starting to see consistency that we've got a good some good proper line out locks, not just enforcer locks, but like the likes of Norkia, the Jager. Obviously, the Jager is not open for selection, but Snyman, um, yeah, just that essence of having a good solid line out lock to be able to call your line outs and call your throws. So while we've been coming up in terms of line out, it's sort of funny or ironic that you're saying that your line outs have been descending. And yeah, maybe we meet in the middle somewhere, and it's a very competitive match. But yeah, it's interesting to note it that way. And how the different teams tie different set pieces to their identity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's also interesting the evolution of rugby because it very much used to be five thinner dude runs the line out, four massive Bucky Sportha gets away with illegal stuff and on and off the field. But now modern rugby, you got to be fitter, but you also technically got to do both because Rowan Nokia is not a small dude, and Eben Etzebeth used to be a four, and then he played a lot five as well when he needs to. Can also run a lineup. Lotte Jaga's evolved. I remember when Ache Steeman on TV used to look thin, and you see him in person. When I saw him in person early in his career, he's much bigger in person, obviously, but now he's even wider, that type of thing. So that's definitely something that moved forward. Also, I don't know if you heard, Adam, but we've evolved in such a way that we have inside centers that can double as loose forwards.
Well, it's funny you say that. As an Ulster fan, we have a hooker that sometimes goes to seven. Actually, no, he played against the Lions at seven as
Stewart,
well.
yeah, Stewart. Yeah.
Sam Stewart, yeah. But when we played in the Ireland Day game, he played a full 80. He played 60 minutes at hooker and he played the rest at seven. And I was just like, he just does everything. He does everything. But I would love to see an in-form Aki like 2018 Bundy Aki at eight. Like how good would that be? But it's interesting that we say about the lineouts and how we can meet in the middle in that sense. But yeah, Ireland's lineout has been vital. You've really hit the nail on the head there. We scored loads of our tries in our biggest games from lineout, whether that be a maul, whether that be a playoff maul, like a set playoff maul from 10 to 12. When I think about our like some of our famous tries, like the Jacob Stockdale one against New Zealand, that's off a line out. He chips it right over the line out and he bounces it over. Like our line out used to be formidable, but I'm not sure if it's callers. I'm not sure is like as we say, line out operators are a big thing in rugby as well. Saying that though, it's really interesting to hear the South African perspective because as an Ulster fan, we used to have Johan Muller being one of the best line-out operators in the league and in Europe at one point, and also Franco van der Merwe,
Oh,
who wasn't too bad
I
either.
was I was so upset when Johan Muller left the Sharks it's to Ulster. But that happens a lot, actually, to be honest, because it's like the Sharks players peak and they go, "Oh, we're going to Ulster now."
That was a wonderful time of my life. We got Bruin Pienaar, Johan Muller, Louis Ludick. Well, it was a wonderful time. But they're all gentlemen. Yeah, they were some of my favorite rugby players growing
And
up.
and to be fair, Johan Muller would have gotten a lot more Springbok caps, but at the time we had a policy we didn't pick anybody from
Yeah.
overseas, so he was that good.
Yeah, he was
Um,
phenomenal for us. But as we say about line-out operators, we have the likes of Tag Byrne, who's really good, and also James Ryan being in that line-out like position as well. And also we've got Van der Fleer, who's also really good in terms of like lifting and lineouts as well. We've got a couple of options. We do have a couple of options, but there's something just not functioning about it. I'm quite worried when Ronan Kelleher comes on the pitch in terms of a lineout. Hopefully he's improved in his lineout throwing in general, but I feel like this season there's a lot more hookers sniffing around that 16 jersey that he would like. He would really
Mm.
want to consolidate that. But this
I think Keller was lucky. I mean, Sheehan Keller is good. Sheehan's world class, but Keller was lucky that Herring, for former Shark himself from Durban, is
is
good,
another
but
one.
he's not really pushing. But I think Gus McCarthy is gonna. I think Gus McCarthy is gonna take Keller's job when he's not looking.
Yeah, so Gus McCarthy as well is another player that's coming up through the ranks. You've got Tom Stewart at Ulster, as well, that can also come through the ranks as well. Rob Herring. He also mentioned, that's weird that you say that. He mentioned that his international career he doesn't feel is quite over, but I'd love Rob Herring to play for Ireland again. He's one of my favorite players. He stepped in the shoes of Rory Best and he excelled for Ulster. So
Mm.
but yeah, it's one of those that you would expect Gus McCarthy to be sniffing down the shoulder, like sniffing around the shoulder of Ronan Kelleher, like breathing down his neck essentially, for how close he is in terms of that 16 position. But you've got a lot of hookers in the other provinces as well that are sort of looking at that, going, that option is sort of there. Dan Sheehan is like he is pretty much untouchable in this sense.
Mm.
As the likes of Tag Furlong as well, and Andrew Porter. But Andrew Porter, as I say, Paddy McCarthy's playing quite well. But yeah, it's a very interesting setup in terms of how we look at this squad and how every time we speak about this game more, I get more confident. And I feel like doing these podcasts, I'm like, oh no, if I say something bad here, like if I say something mad in terms of like, oh, Ireland by 50 points, for example, it's gonna get cut and somebody's gonna say something and somebody's gonna say something in the
It's
comments.
not like the internet is forever, Adam. Um,
Oh no, it's that footprint that you need. It's just me on rugby podcasts. I think this is my third global gainline podcast that I've been on now. It's just that one of those ones that I'm going to eventually be on every one, just going, oh no, Ireland by 50. And I'm not
One
saying that.
final thought, Jean. How do we get at you're very good with tactics. How do we get at Sam Prendergast? Because he's not very good at defending. He's a fantastic player. I think he's got a high ceiling. I think they're being a bit silly rushing him so soon. Sexton retires. Crowley wins them a Six Nations, and then they go, oh, by the way, Crowley, the guy after you, slightly younger, a little bit taller, looks really thin as a reed, not as good defense, but has a higher ceiling, as a maybe better pass, maybe a bit better chip kicks and those things. We're just going to give him the Six Nations to find his feet. So yeah, how do we take Sam Pendergrass's lunch so that they have to bring Crowley on? Do we do what New Zealand did to fraud alert Finn Russell?
Fraud
So
alert.
so I'll say something bold, right? I'll say something bold. I think I don't think we want Crowley on the field. I'll say something bold. The Springboks don't want Crowley on the field.
Yeah, fair enough.
We don't want to push Farrell to bring in Crowley on, and I'll say it like this: Prendergast is a tactician and a general, right? He knows the book, he knows the rules. He's gonna play and he'll do his best and he might get you there. Crowley is like Crowley is like a field major or something, right? He just doesn't give a shit. He's gonna rip the rule book in half and say whatever the rule book says or whatever the playbook says is not working. We're gonna go to what works, right? We've been playing this out the back, or we've been doing this, or we've been doing that, and I also feel he's got a bit more temperament in him. Like he's almost like um he'll be the backline version of RG Snyman. Like he's gonna come on and say, "Well, come on, lads, come on. What's this business of faffing about here? We've got a job to do. It's at the other end of the field, and we're stuck here. Get your heads out. Start looking that way. How do we get there, right?" So, in all honesty, for me, uh, put Prendergast under pressure, but not to the extent that he gets yoked off,
Oh, okay.
because then
Hmm.
I think psychologically getting Prendergast to crack is easier than getting Crowley to crack.
Mm.
Crowley
Interesting.
might take that pressure and just go like, well, that's it. I'm having the game of my life. And then Adams Ireland by 50 rings true, and he gets called a Prometheus of
On
rugby,
record,
and
on
we have
record, I
to,
did not say Ireland by 50.
and then we have
On
to
record, on
live
record.
with this smuggery from up north for how
Yeah.
long? But no, I honestly think like in terms of Ireland, I always look at the Ireland attack as a beautifully built machine. And the one thing that machine needs is like lightning quick ball. And that's why you have Gibson Park starting, is because Gibson Park has learned the lesson that so many nines struggle with. You need to make the choice of where you're passing before you get to the ruck. You need to scan on the way in and already know by the time you get to the ruck, I'm passing there or I'm passing there. You cannot wait to get to the ruck and then faff about looking what's happening. That second that you take to scan is an extra second for a good forward. That's 3 meters of shifting into position, right? For a back, that's probably close to 5-6 meters of of shifting. So now the defense is widened, they've set, they've stayed connected. So Gibson Park is got that elite skill of when he touches the ball, he already knows where it's going, and he's got the pass where that knowledge, uh, like that knowledge and that skill set makes it a deadly combo. So where you have to attack Ireland is you have to be competitive at the rucks, right? I think you can play to the ref because sometimes Ireland tend to clear beyond the ruck. So if you sort of paint that picture and you create the bait to get cleared beyond the ruck and you're going there, hey, Mr. Ref, I was just standing there and this guy tackled me. You could get some fruit there. But yeah, just slowing down the ball at ruck time, attacking it there, and I wouldn't say put pressure on Prendergast, put pressure around Prendergast.
Hmm.
Look at his passing options and pressure them, right? Because it's one thing to put the 10 under pressure and he passes a hospital pass.
Hmm.
It's one thing to put the passing options under pressure. And now the guy getting the ball is receiving the ball, looks up. Okay, well, I've got Damien there, Linda running in to kill me. Pass it to him. Well, I'm getting JC Krill coming in from the side to kill me. Well, I'll pass it into the boot out the back. 15 thinks, oh, I've got a gap. Hell no. Moody's coming in to kill me. So understand, you sort of kill the attack and you kill his tactical ability by shutting down the space around him. So it's not the same as we did with Barrett in the Rugby World Cup final where we were hitting him. And I'm pretty sure marching orders have already been given to Peter Steff de Toy to say someone needs some PSDT. There's an order of Irish ribs over there. But I think to a large extent, the reason we were so close in that 2022 game was the fact that the likes of Jesse Kriel and Damien Allende absolutely flew into the passing lanes and shut down the pass off the 10 instead of just smearing the 10 across the grass continuously. And I think that's where because it's not that Prendergast is doing bad, it's that he has no options.
It's interesting that you bring that up because all the discourse that I've seen leading up to this is like, oh, who are you going to run into Pendergrass' channel, that type of thing. You put him under pressure. But then the counter argument to that is Pendergrass is going to pass and or kick before you can get there, so that if you hit late, then they milk a penalty. But yeah, I like the evolution of rugby, and it's more. There are similarities between rugby and football, but the one thing that's interesting about football is that in football, if everybody's fit, you want your best players to start on the match 11. But in rugby, even if everybody's fit, sometimes you want your best players not to start. It's not that the players who start, especially if you have a large player pool to choose from, like South Africa and Ireland, New Zealand, France, sometimes you want the guys you think are second best to almost play a certain tactical nuance and then bring, if things go awry, you can sort of bring someone on. For example, Bornfent is starting this tomorrow, this weekend. But if he does have a bit of a rough game here and there, which happens, we're all human, we've got Gerard Steenkamp, who's been a revelation for us. We were freaking out, like who's going to play behind Oxen and with Kitsov retired. These guys have really stepped up, so I'm encouraged by that. Yeah. Your final thoughts, Adam?
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, John, about isolating Prendergast but not wanting Crawley to come on. But if I was Andy Farrell, I think that Crawley will be on hit by 50 minutes. Either way, I think he's
Mhm.
there to consolidate a game or to win a game. I think Prendergast as well has got a very, I think what we've seen from Prendergast at the start of the season compared to now is the fact that at the start of the season there was something up where he didn't look as confident. Now Prendergast is getting quite confident. Now he's going to do those little chip over the tops and he's going to look around that back three. I think the luxury of playing Australia last week was that their back three necessarily wasn't exactly on par with each other. And he was very, very interested in looking at like his brain is almost like a rugby computer. In that sense, you're completely right about being the general. But I feel like if Ireland were to win this, I completely agree. I think it's going to be about by 3 points. I think it's going to be a really cagey affair. If we keep it cagey and play, it's almost like playing it to the Springboks strength in that physicality that you bring. Because once your forward pack gets a bit tired, here comes the bomb squad. Here it comes through. Whereas I feel like we need to really use our players really tactically, almost minimizing that threat of the bomb squad. If there is like almost like if there is a bomb squad to sort of dismantle, is that we need to really tactically use our players and be like, listen, you're going to play 60, you're going to come off, Jack Conan, you're going to come on, and you're going to just keep on targeting the 10. You're going to keep on whoever's on that 10 position, you're going to keep on targeting him, or you're going to target 12. I feel like with Ireland and whatever the Aviva is going to be so hostile in atmosphere tomorrow. We talked a lot about atmosphere in the podcast, but I feel like when it comes to South Africa, England, New Zealand, or France, we know the position of we're probably the top five best teams in the world at the minute. We know how hostile it's going to get. And I feel like the crowd's going to have a lot to play with it. I think that the weather's going to have a lot to play with it as well. It's going to be a cold, cold day in Dublin. When you say that you're in springtime right now, we're in the autumn coming into winter. Um, it's going to be a cold, cold day in Dublin. I feel like we really need to pack down and just sort of use our ball well, use our ball effectively as well. We don't want to be losing it on silly penalties. We don't want to be losing it in the line out. We need everything to work well. We need everything to work well. And I feel like we'll still win by 3 points. Do you know what I mean? Like if we have everything to work well, we'll win by 3 points. And I feel like that's the greatest compliment that I can give to the Springboks is the fact that I can't see us scoring any more than that at the minute. I would take a 3 point win. If we score more, it's even better. But that 3 point win will be vital in terms of morale. We haven't lost a game since our new president, Catherine Connolly, has been engaged and that in charge, and that means the football as
I,
well.
I'm a big fan of hers, by the way. I like her. Yeah.
If we need Troy Parrott to come off the bench, I'm sure he's got a gum shield somewhere. He's got a gum shield somewhere. He'll come on and score a hat trick.
Oh
If
my God.
if heading the ball over the line will do, it will do. But but yeah, I'd
Oh,
say
when I tuned into the Interpro show this week as I was driving, the first 15 minutes was football, and I was like, I like football. It's fantastic. Of course, I unfortunately I support False Hope FC, colloquially referred to, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Manchester United. But that's beside the point. And I know Adam supports Spurs.
coins. But
All right,
yeah,
gentlemen. All
yeah.
right, final point, Adam. Go.
Oh no, yeah, Aaron by three, and it's been a pleasure being on, lads. Anytime you want me on, let me know.
Yeah. So this is
Well,
actually a crossover pod. I don't know where producer Lee's going to put it on the YouTube channel. It's not an Interpro show. It's not
oh,
a bit of an animal. It's a crossover
uh,
It's
podcast.
a bit
We
of
were
an
hope.
interpro.
Yeah, it's a bit of an Interpro.
Could have been
Exactly.
an Interpro show. Amazing. And then,
Fantastic. So yeah, we were hoping one of your other Irish colleagues would join, but it's fantastic to have you on Adam. Yeah, for the final point I want to make is that the reason why this game, and like previous games in this November test series, is the most anticipated, is because you don't really know who's going to win. It's incredibly close, and those are the games that have the most intrigue going into them. So yeah. Thank you to Jean. Thank you to Adam. I can't say in Rassie we trust because this is not a bit of an animal. And I can't say whatever Kalen says at the end of the podcast. I never quite get it. So yeah, I'm just going to say, may all your beverages, alcoholic or otherwise, be cold. Until next week. Bye.